Show of hands out there in the audience, who here has seen the 1994 classic film Forrest Gump, starring Tom Hanks? And of course there was a character opposite Forrest Gump, Jenny, who we all know, and you probably remember the scene where she was playing the guitar in the lounge and she was naked on stage with her and her acoustic guitar. Is it just me, or does Avril's new album cover look like if Jenny had gone on to have a legit music career, this would be her album cover? What's up everyone, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John. It's time for a review of the comeback album by the Canadian singer, songwriter, pop rock, pop punk, I guess, in the past as well. Avril Lavigne is her name, and Head Above Water is the name of her new record. This is going to be a very tricky album review for me today because I've been an Avril Lavigne fan for the better part of 2 decades. I discovered her in the early 2000s on an episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and I really haven't looked back since then. Her first 2 records are my favorites, but if you've seen my top 10 Avril songs that I posted here on the channel, then you know that there's other stuff that I definitely am a fan of too. It's just that in recent years, her output has left a lot to be desired. Unfortunately, as most of you probably know, Avril found herself in a fight for her life as she was battling Lyme disease, which is generally something that you get from a tick bite, and it definitely isn't just something that goes away overnight. This took years of her life, and that explains the long gap in between studio albums. Now, my hope that was if anything great could come from this, that it would be these songs that saw her on the edge of life and then coming back and making something triumphant. And I feel like she did make that first move with the title track Head Above Water, but the rest of this record, man, I'm just not sure if it at all echoes the experiences that she's had. Oh, it's just the sound they want me to explain? That should be extremely easy, because in most cases it normally is, but here, while there is some latency and crossover between styles and genres, I feel like I haven't gotten this many mixed signals from something since my middle school relationship. It's really a shame at how watered down many of the songs feel, as she's teamed up with a lot of co-writers that she's written with for the better part of her career, like Lauren Christie. New names are in the mix as well. J.R. Rodham is in there, and also Travis Clark from We the Kings, who co-wrote the comeback single Head Above Water. It's a standout cut, but overall the sound feels like watered down pop. And Avril's voice, while it does shine on many of the cuts, I feel that the production often doesn't do it any favors. And the lyrical content, which is something that I have to get more into in just a minute, but the lyrics almost sound so uninspired and so uninteresting, so dime a dozen, like they could have been written by anyone, that I have to focus in on the music and say, what is the saving grace here? And more often than not, there's nothing there either. For those of you who were hoping for something more rock-oriented, you're not really gonna have that craving satisfied here. This is a record that often does utilize guitars, but it's something where they're thrown in the mix in a very basic fashion, basic acoustic chord progressions. And if you're into that, if you're into kind of those anthem-y type songs, then this will probably be a resounding success for you. But if you're looking for depth that you can come back to for years on end, I just don't think Head Above Water is the record for you. Can we just start with the obvious that doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the music itself? That album cover. Ooh, it's a part of those mixed signals that I was talking about. I read up on all of the meanings that Avril tweeted out for these tracks, and they're the most bland descriptions ever. Some of these love songs and talking about toxic relationships, like Tell Me It's Over. That is not the vibe that I get at all when I listen to that track, and she talks about it like how it's an empowerment anthem and she's taking back control, and she's singing about Don't Tell Me It's Over, and there's a few lines in there, it's like, oh, why do you do this to me? Why do you keep coming back? But there's not really anything that's like, wow, I'm really standing up and taking charge. And on the opening song, the lead single, she's singing, God, keep my head above water. It's like she's found her faith, and that's fantastic. And I'm not one to judge at all. I thought that was a very nice touch to the song. But then literally on the next song, Birdie, which I am a fan of, she says, God damn, which is taking the Lord's name in vain if you're a religious person out there. It's just, again, a mixed signal that I'm not necessarily judging her for. I'm just confused on what your take is. To reiterate some of my past points, the songwriting is razor thin. It sounds like, for the most part, these songs could have been written by anybody. The tracks feel uninspired. They do not feel like they're taking a strong stance on much of anything. And for example, there's so many songs that are described as anthems by Avril herself, including Dumb Blonde featuring Nicki Minaj. Well, this song already sounds like it's been made a million times. I, in fact, at first thought this sounds a lot like Holla Back Girl by Gwen Stefani, and what do you know? It sampled that song, and it feels like a D-grade version of that track, which I love the original. This one, not so much. And Nicki Minaj being featured here, Avril, you're better than that. And the Nicki feature, I mean, she hands out these features like somebody handing out free samples at the mall. There's definitely vocal moments that shine. There's verses within tracks. There's a few choruses where I feel like she excels. But then there's the other moments where it feels like she's just copying other people's vocal fluctuations, like Bigger Wow. I just want a bigger wow. How many pop songs have we heard that in the past 10 years? Head Above Water is a great starting place. It's the opening song, the title track here. Obviously, the cry out from her soul saying, please keep me alive because I feel like I'm dying right now. It's an intimate experience and a look into her time battling Lyme disease, and it's great to see her come out the other side. However, things start to go downhill pretty quickly after the opening two tracks. That alongside Birdie, which is fantastic. Her vocals there really excel, and I feel like she takes herself out of this little box that much of the album is in and actually gets creative with the way that she words things and the instrumental approach. It actually has some tempo, some pacing, and also some sort of dynamic that makes you want to come back. But after that, the quality truly dips. It's not like the album immediately dive bombs into the ground, but starting with I Fell in Love with the Devil, I hear this song that Avril describes as her running and escaping a toxic relationship. And from a musical point of view, it's okay. It's still a little bit safe, but I'll allow it, of course. It's enjoyable enough. But the lyrics on this thing, with her describing somebody like the devil, I don't hear any of that passion. I don't hear the anger that should be kind of seething from your voice. I feel like Avril used to have such a commanding presence, even on her earlier records. And that's another problem with her being a lot older now, and I would say probably wiser as a person. Why do her old songs feel so much deeper? Crush has some pretty good vocals, and it was another standout for me, but again, that's not really saying all that much from an album that doesn't really have that many high points. So many of these songs are just recyclable, throwaway. Like if I never saw them again, I wouldn't think twice about it. Like Souvenir, even It Was In Me, which is trying to have some presence. I will definitely give it that. There is something to be felt there, but I do feel like a lot of the emotion is lost in the way that it's translated through the lyrics, which feel like they were run through a depth filter and they maybe started off as something good and slowly they whittled away all of the good stuff and we're left with the remaining bits. And then there's songs that I wish I could forget, like Goddess, because on that track, I kid you not, she attempts to rhyme pajamas with bananas. Now, if you're like me, an English language aficionado, you know that pajamas and bananas do not rhyme. So how does she attempt to fix this? Bananas! Banana. I'm sorry, but that is so inexcusable, so lazy. It feels like it was done by not even like a fourth grader, like a second grader or something. And then you've got, God forbid, Love Me Insane, which is yet another song in the pop world and realm that's not necessarily about love being a drug, but if it's not a drug, then it's something about love being crazy. And here we have Love Me Insane, which you might find entertaining from a vocal standpoint, but other than that, it's got nothing for you. I really wanted to like this album. If you saw my track review of Head Above Water, I promise you, I wanted to like this album. If you're gonna be gone for this long of a period of time in between records, which obviously I am not blaming Avril here, I totally understand why. But if you're gonna come back, you have to have something of substance, something that is gonna remind people of why your name was big in the first place, and this album simply does not have it. Guys, this record was a huge letdown. I am rating this a strong 2 out of 5. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and please keep in mind that it's all just my opinion, so don't tear me to pieces over a damn opinion. Don't forget to drop a like on the video while you're here and subscribe to the channel because we talk about all things music several times a week on both of my channels. If you would like to see my top 10 favorite Avril songs, then tap here, tap over here to support the channel on Patreon, or tap here to see my review of Under My Skin. Socials in the description, and I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.